Welcome to the Science of Parenting podcast, where we connect you with research based information that fits your family. I'm Lori Cordles, parent of 3 in 2 different life stages. 2 are launched, and 1 is still in high school. And I'm a parenting educator.
And I'm Mackenzie Johnson, parent of 2 littles with their own quirks, and I'm a parenting educator. Today, we'll talk about the realities of raising a family and how research can help guide our parenting decisions.
Hello,
Hi, everybody.
welcome.
Yes, we still haven't figured out how to start an episode.
Yeah, we have to watch them first and let it play. And okay, now we know what to do. But
Oh, yeah. Hi,
yeah,
guys. Hi,
yeah.
everybody.
Here we are, season 8, episode 3. This season, remember, we are talking about the great discipline debate, and we're looking at guidance and discipline from multiple perspectives this season, right? And
Mhm.
our research is coming from that book, the book called
The
The Prac
Handbook of
the hand
Parenting.
how
The volume is The
Oh,
Practice of
yeah.
Parenting,
The
Volume 5.
volume is the practice of parenting. Yeah,
Yes.
Lori's reading her notes. Yeah, only for the first time. No, not really. Yes, the handbook of parenting, right? There is a handbook, and it's edited by Mark Bornstein. And we're particularly looking at the chapter that was written by Dr. Jennifer E. Lansford. And
Mhm.
this chapter is on parenting and child discipline. So, having a great time in this episode 3. We have several more.
Yes.
I'm really enjoying the perspectives and offering multiple perspectives to parents.
Yes, well, and not just looking at it as like, do this, don't do that.
Exactly.
Like, there's way more here is in terms of how we interact with our kids and try to shape their behavior than just
Yes.
like, don't do this, do that, and like helping us understand why I might do that, which is really what we did
Yes.
last week, right? Like
Yes.
last
Yes.
week we looked at those unspoken kind of influences
Hmm.
and thinking about the quiet ways they show up that we may not have noticed before.
Yes.
And the other thing, we chat through these before and then we talk afterwards and with our team with Mackenzie and Barb and like the realization of okay, we're this season we're not doing like a you know what, you're terrible at this, so we better
Yeah.
just tell you what to do. Like I hope everybody knows that is
Yes.
not what we're doing. And
No.
honestly, the reflection that the two of us have
Hmm.
as we go through this as well. And so that it's a but like an
Yes.
opportunity to feel more informed and to choose intentionally, right? Rather than like those default settings and stuff just happening to us. It's like I can choose with
Absolutely.
intention to get the things I actually want. And so we hope that it comes from a place of like, we're excited to share this information with you so you can make decisions about what's best for your family.
Right, right. And this week, particularly, we're talking about emotions, right? And
Yes.
so we titled it "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly." Okay. And
Yeah.
so if you think about emotions and how emotions come up in our parenting, and how the emotions we have impact which parenting tools we pull out of our toolbox.
Yes.
Super important, right? And lots of different kinds of emotions. Great, happy, sad,
Hmm.
fearful emotions, whether
Yes.
they're big emotions or small, little, tiny emotions, they still impact the decisions we make around parenting our kids.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
I even think of like, arguably, if I'm working on building like a warm relationship with my kid, that's a part of guidance and discipline.
Hmm.
And whether I feel like saying stop that or whether I feel like saying I love you,
Yeah.
right? That's an emotion.
It's
An
an
emotion
emotion.
drives that.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
So we get to dive right in this week with the theory, right? Every week,
Right.
a little bit of theory
A little bit.
around parenting. And Laura's going to kick us off with this emotion theory.
Yeah, so a little bit of emotion theory back in 1991. Oh, PS, by the way, if you did not listen to the history last week, go back and listen to the history. Super
Go
fun, super
find
cool.
it.
Yeah. So here we are in 1991 with a theoretical model. It's kind
Mm.
of a framework, right, Mackenzie? And this model was proposed by Theodore Dix, and he describes 3 processes of emotions and how they impact our decisions. So these 3 processes are activation, engagement, and regulation. And it kind
Mhm.
of sounds like a rocket launch sequence, right?
I know,
Yeah.
right? There's your word picture, right?
Activation,
But like
engagement, regulation.
the emotions, they're gonna do those 3 things. And then okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna talk more about that because I like that.
Yes.
But really this I when we were reading about this theory, the idea of like this is the behavior reaction cycle.
Mhm.
this chunk of like emotions is so much of the parent reaction part, and I mean,
Yes.
and honestly, our kids' reaction part too, but we're the adult.
We
We're the
are.
adult. But so
Yes.
I want to break this down, these different parts, in terms of where they fit in that little chunk of the circle of
Mhm.
the behavior reaction loop.
Yes. All right. So we'll start with activation. Okay.
Hmm.
So activation really talks about which of the emotions we are experiencing. So, which emotion is it? And then, how strong is that emotion experience within us, the parent? Which emotion is it we're experiencing, and how strong is it within us?
Yes. And so, I think of two different examples of, okay, let's say it's the end of the day, I'm feeling tired and frustrated with my child's behavior, and whether I feel like a little bothered or like ragey.
Raging.
Like
Yes.
that's activation. It was like how
Activation.
strongly, like, whoo, how
Yeah.
strongly that emotion comes on. Versus, in another scenario, like whether I feel like, oh, that was kind of cute if my child does something that I like a desired behavior, versus like,
Mhm.
I just love you so much,
Yes.
right? That's a difference in activation, how strongly it comes on.
Yes. Yeah. So then engagement, the second thing is how we adjust to the events or the behaviors, and how do we move these reactions that we're having into behaviors that we express.
Yes.
So taking in the recognizing the emotion, is it big or little? And then not quite moving out into the behavior, but recognizing, okay, what am I going to look like when I express this behavior?
Oh, yes. And so if the activation is the internal reaction
Yep.
part of the behavior reaction cycle, I think that the engagement is like whether that arrow is going to be like long or short. It's like the length of the
Ooh.
arrow towards behavior of like, yes, is this going to like engage and go? Or
Oh,
like,
yes.
or are we going to have a third step here? And if I do feel ragey,
Yes.
as an emotion that I experience from time to time, if I feel ragey, is that going to engage right into behavior?
Mm,
Or is it going to
yes.
go to this third part of the process?
Yes, regulation. So we talk about self regulation in children, where we hope to teach them how to control themselves and control their regulation. And so, regulation for us as adults is similar. It's expressing how it's helping us understand how we express. How do we
Yes.
stay in control? How do we understand that emotion?
Absolutely. And so that behavior reaction cycle, it's what's going to determine what the behavior actually is,
Hmm.
right? The regulation is, right, that if we engage it, if that's a short arrow, like our reaction immediately comes our behavior, which happens to us, that happens to me, that happens to us. We're not always regulated.
Yes.
But when we can get regulated, we can lengthen that arrow. It's like, okay, my reaction doesn't immediately have to be behavior. My activated, let's say my activated emotion was ragey.
Yes.
Maybe I choose not to engage it and I regulate. Maybe I stop, breathe, talk, or I find some other way to get more in control, and my emotions get a little more regulated so I can behave in a way that's intentional.
Yes. And
Mm,
I love how you're talking about the arrow, and in case you're listening, maybe what you want to do is go back and check out our blog, because
yes.
on our blog we'll maybe have a little infographic of exactly kind of the short and long arrows that Mackenzie is
Yes.
talking about. And
Yes.
another piece of that is, I think that as we look at regulating our emotions, thinking about how does our temperament come into play? What's our
Oh,
intensity level? Right?
yes.
This is a huge piece of our own personal guidance and discipline barometer, right?
Yes.
So, is our intensity a high intensity, which means that, in that behavior reaction cycle, we probably have a really short little arrow
Yeah.
before we behave. Okay.
Yes.
If we are less intense, there's probably a good, chance that our arrow is a little longer, meaning we have a
Mhm.
little space between when we engage, react, and think about that emotion behavior and what actually comes out for others to see.
Oh, yes. That's such a great point. The length, the natural length
The
of
natural
that
length
arrow, of
part of
like
that.
that space we have in between reaction and
Yeah.
behavior, for sure. But So going back to that rocket launch idea.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I have the word picture today. I've
Okay,
got
good.
it.
Okay, good.
So a rocket launch. So when we're thinking about our emotions as a rocket launch, activate is like engines powered on.
Okay.
Like emotions are
Push the
ready,
button.
like flipped on,
Yep.
ready to go.
Flip the switch. Okay.
Engagement is like, okay, once it's powered on, we have to make sure like things are actually going to be prepared to go,
Mhm.
right? We're engaging that emotion. We're getting ready to get ready to go behave.
Yes. The
And
lights
so
are coming on the panel. Like
exactly.
all the lights are starting to come on the instruction mechanical panel. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I bet that's
Yeah.
what it's in a rocket. Never been in one, but I bet it
Yeah.
is for sure.
Yeah. All the lights are coming on.
All the lights are coming on. Love that. Okay, versus the actual regulation. It's like checking those gauges. Is
Ah.
this appropriate for where it needs to be?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
regulating that emotion is like, okay, my activated emotion was very strong.
Mhm.
If I engage it, it's ready to go. I need to
Ah,
regulate it. Like,
dial it
right,
back.
make sure it's at an appropriate level. And sometimes
Mhm.
my it is appropriate for me to yell, "Stop, don't run in the street."
Mhm.
Like, sometimes it is appropriate for my emotion, my fight or flight to kick in to keep us safe.
Yes.
Sometimes that's appropriate. So
Yes.
regulating it to what is appropriate for a given situation is
Yes.
how that emotion process of like we have an activation, something
Yes.
gets that emotion started, it gets engaged in our body. We're gonna regulate it to an appropriate level for the situation.
Yes. I wonder if Mackenzie can create that word picture for us. I don't know. I
If
don't
you
know.
see a beautiful rocket on your screen right
Right.
now, thank Mackenzie DeYoung.
All right. So not only does temperament influence our emotional reactions and our and in any given situation, but Theodore Dix also in his model talks about that there are other things and how we think about certain situations is also going to influence that emotional level. So as the adult, we have these three things that kind of come into play and how we think about what's happening is going to impact, whether we like it or not, our emotion,
Yeah,
that first activation piece, right? So
absolutely.
these three things are stability, controllability, and influence.
Yes. So
Okay.
they talked about it as like the stability, controllability, and importance of the event. So, like, okay, the event that prompts my emotion.
Yes.
So, stability being like, maybe does this happen all the time?
Mm.
Like, controllability, like, do I feel like I have any power in this situation? Or maybe feels like I have no influence
Hmm.
versus the importance being like, is this a big deal to me?
Yes.
This event. And so how that influences the way we respond and how strongly, of course,
Yes.
temperament's a factor in there.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
but how long our wick is.
Yes.
Yes. And so yeah, those three factors are still important.
They are. So if you looked at those three factors, do you have one that in particular shortens that wick or increases your
Mm.
emotional response, stability,
Okay, I can think of a
controllability,
specific
importance?
yeah, I can think of a specific example
Okay, okay.
where I know one of those components is particularly important. When my kids like step on my toes, when I had a child who used to headbutt when they
Oh,
were like a young toddler, older baby,
mhm.
like situations like that, even if they're accidental, like,
Yes.
but
Yes.
things that like inflict a surprising amount of pain
Yes.
make my reaction like, and especially because like stability, they happen all the time.
They happen all the time.
Like
All
it's
the
like,
time.
why is this always happening? Like when my child was in that phase of headbutting all the time, or if
Yes.
my kids are stepping on my toes with their shoes on, like those things just like mm,
So
they
that
really
heightened your
shorten it
emotions.
does. The strength of my
Heightened.
reaction, like even just like small bits and
Mhm.
accidental, like my child can be walking up to me to like give me a hug, and then
Yes.
they jump thinking it's fun and they smack me in the face, and I'm like, "Ugh."
Yes.
It hurts.
It does. It does.
So,
All right.
yeah, that one's
Yes.
one of what about you? One of those where one of those factors comes in?
Okay, so my intensity is less intense than yours,
It is.
and so there was wait, as we were talking through this, what did I say? I was like, "Gosh, I need more emotion. Hey, but I did. I was like, am I emotionless? No, no,
Oh.
because actually, then when I thought about it, the importance of this situation, right? When it's something super important, man, I can my emotions, boom, like they're hot or
Mm.
they're big, and especially when it comes to my daughter with disability, my
Mm.
child who has a diagnosed disability. I know that there were times, and there are still times, even at 22, right? That she I really, really want someone to understand her, and I really want
Mm.
someone to give her a chance. And I really want, it's so super important to me that someone understand that the reason that this is happening is because of her disability.
Yes.
Like there were like look at me. I'm starting
Yeah,
to get
you're like, "I
all
can't talk
like
this fast."
I'm breathing fast and I'm talking fast, and
But it's
it,
important.
it is, it's important. And
Mhm.
then what happens is you stop listening to my words, and then you're looking at my emotions as getting in the way. And that's super
Mm.
frustrating to me as the adult,
Yes.
but thinking, okay, my emotions got in the way of this super important message. And now you just think I'm being emotional.
Mm,
Ragey.
yes. Ragey, ragey,
Ragey.
a word I refer to often.
Yes.
But so, yeah, those factors, like our temperament is there, but these other things that influence how strongly we react, and honestly, almost kind of an unspoken aspect.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that influence our emotional response.
Yes.
And so then one other big one, the other kind of big influencer, if you will, and I thought the way they phrased this, I really like whether the undesired behavior, so like, and some people might say misbehavior, whether it's related to a short-term goal, like brush your teeth,
Okay.
or whether it's related to a long-term goal, like the type of person you are and the sense of right and wrong that you
Mm.
have.
Mhm.
So whether which of those goals it maybe goes against, and whether it's being thwarted, love that. Whether those goals are being thwarted or whether they're being advanced. So like
Oh.
maybe my child is saying, so like I've told you guys before that we talk a lot about like you're in charge of your body.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
If my
yeah.
child is resisting a short-term goal, she's like, because I'm in charge of my body. It's like, well, that aligns with my long-term goals.
It does.
But so that is also, like whether they're resisting something short term, I might feel annoyed, frustrated, stressed, whatever. If they're resisting something long term, I might feel like defeated, right? Like it
Yeah,
can prompt a different emotion. Or yeah, if I feel like you're thwarting the short term to get
right,
the long term, I'm like, okay,
right.
that's fair. But
Oof.
that also influences our emotional response.
It does, and I think that right along with that is if you think about influencing your emotions is like that short-term goal of getting ready on time, and they don't do that, and you
Mm,
just need them right this minute to get ready on time. That can bring up, a strong emotion. And
yes.
actually what we know is that harsher forms of punishment um actually can get to that short-term goal,
Ah, yes.
but they don't then help with the long-term one, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, they didn't get ready for school in the morning on time, and you yelled, and it worked. They got ready, but guess what? You're going to have to yell every morning.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Okay,
well,
I
that
just had
doesn't
an
work.
aha.
Yeah.
The difference between the short-term goal, the what I want you to do,
Mhm.
I want you to brush your teeth, I want you to be ready, I want you to not hit your brother.
Yeah.
um, what I want you to do versus the long term is the why I want you to do it.
Ooh, yes.
So, short
Yes.
term, so like harsh punishment, corporal punishment, right?
Mhm.
Though yelling, like things coming on really strong like that, harsh punishment can be, it can get you to do the what. I
Yeah.
want you to get up off the floor, don't throw this
Yeah.
tantrum.
Yeah.
I want you to be home on time
Mhm.
when I told you to, can be in the short term, but is it helping us with the why you want
Why?
that behavior?
Yeah.
I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
No, but
I'm
like
like,
that just clicked so many things for me. Like, what do I want you to do versus
mhm.
why do I want you to do it? But
Yeah,
that's going to influence our emotions and
totally.
how we respond to it. Like, which of
Yes.
these reasons, like, which of these things are being thwarted?
You thwarted.
Thwarted,
It's our word for the day, thwarted.
right? Yes. So, yeah, word of the day,
Word of the day,
emotions and thwarted.
thwarted.
So, yeah, these things influence our emotions. There's these different, the process of emotions is
Mhm.
not as straightforward as like, I feel. right? That's activation, engagement, and regulation.
Mhm.
And then all these influences that affect how strongly we react or how we react at all. So that's the internal,
Yeah.
right? That's the internal process of emotions.
Yep.
But there is this external, right? When it actually translates into behavior. And so Lansford says that emotions can either undermine our parenting or can promote sensitive and responsive parenting, depending on if the emotions match a given situation.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you and like that kind of punched me in the gut when you said that
Yeah.
my emotions can undermine my parenting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that didn't feel
I didn't
good.
pull out that specific phrase, but
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now what was the second phrase? Now that I can move on.
Yeah. So they can undermine
Mhm.
or promote. So good
Yep.
side. They can also
Good side. They
promote.
can promote, yes.
Um, but what it depends on whether the strength of the emotion matches a given situation.
Ah, yes.
So
Yes.
basically, if my emotions are strong, if my emotions are too big for a situation, like, I said last week, like my kids were fighting over a plate.
Yeah.
And it made me very angry that if it's too strong for a given situation, I am more likely to react harshly. But on the flip side, which is not something I would have thought of because I am very intense,
Mhm.
the flip side is if we don't have strong enough emotions, if our emotions are too weak for a given
Right.
situation,
Mhm.
if I don't respond strongly when my child is about to do something very unsafe,
Right.
right? There's also negative consequences of emotions not being strong enough because we might not
Yes.
address behavior. And so
Yes.
the trick is about matching, like what is appropriate emotion for a given situation. And of course, the way we do that is regulating.
Yes. It kind of makes me think of when we were talking about consequences. Like, does the
Mm,
consequence match the misbehavior?
yes.
Does the
And that's really what guidance and
emotion,
discipline is.
right? Does the
Consequence.
emotion match the misbehavior?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason that I disproportionately reacted to you fighting about the plate wasn't about you fighting about the plate.
No.
Yep. Yep. That was a mismatch. That was a mismatch.
Mismatch. Yes.
Oh, okay. So we know that regulating is going to help us, um, match those emotions to a given
Mhm.
situation. But there's another trick here. So we want to move into our strategy for the week,
Okay.
our not homework
Not homework
activity,
activity.
but a thing that you can do
Not
between listening to
homework.
episodes
Yeah.
activity. But so the strategy for the week is to work on cooperation and aligning parent-child goals, is how they
Okay.
said it in the book.
Co
Aligning parent-child goals. And
cooperation.
so they give us three strategies of how we can do that, of how
Okay.
we can more closely align our goals. But it says that emotions and parent-child interactions are generally more positive when our goals are aligned than when they're divergent. No surprise.
Yes.
Well, the word divergent's a little bit of surprise. I liked that word.
Yeah.
But the idea
Thwarted,
behind the statement,
divergent.
thwarted, divergent.
Okay.
Um, but
So, well, I
obviously,
mean, yeah, when they align, then
yeah,
it's
life's easier.
easier. Yeah, life is easier when things are in alignment, right?
Yes.
I want to watch cartoons and so do you. Super.
Yes, that's great. So, but the challenge is, of course, they don't always align.
Right.
So, what do we do to create alignment? And they give us three strategies of how to
Okay.
do that. You
Okay.
want to kick
So,
us off with some of those?
okay, I will. I will. So, our three strategies, we have cooperative strategies, empathetic strategies, and forceful strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And stay with us cuz actually it's forceful sounds negative, but it's actually
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah, okay. So, cooperative strategies. These are things like negotiations,
Mm-hmm.
reasoning, right? Let's have chit chat about why we are not in alignment. You want to stay here
Yes.
and play and I need you to go upstairs to bed, so let's
Yes.
cooperate on this. How can we negotiate this bedtime activity?
Mhm. Well, and even I think of like finding common ground when you said to your child, like, okay, I need to do this.
Mhm.
You needed a ride. Like, how are you gonna get home?
How are you gonna get home?
How are you gonna get home? But so like finding the common ground in a situation too is also a form of cooperation. Like, I want this, you want this.
Yes.
Where's the
Let's
common ground?
let's negotiate.
That's a form of cooperative strategies. What's the next one?
Strategy one. All right. So
Yeesh.
empathetic strategies.
Mm,
These are going along with their wishes.
mhm.
Empathetic because you understand where they're coming from, and really acknowledging the reason for their behavior. This
Yeah.
could be something like, "Wow, you are showing me that you're really mad right now." Like, you are
Mhm.
super mad right now. Empathetic. I understand. Help me name. I'm gonna help you name what feeling you are feeling right now. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and I mean, with all different ages of kids, we can do this. Even like our
Absolutely.
older kids, we can I know you really wanna do this.
Mhm.
Like, I know you really wanna do that thing.
Yes.
That's empathy, right? That's an empathetic strategy. Like,
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
And sometimes it is I don't like to use the phrase giving in, but
Yes.
sometimes it is saying like, "You know what? I don't you can do this. Like, I
Mhm.
don't need to quote unquote fight this battle." Like,
Yes.
you're right. Okay, yeah, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
And
You know
that
what?
can be that's empathy.
That's empathy. Yes.
Yes.
And that, yeah, that's not, it's not giving in. It's recognizing, you know
Yes.
what, right now they feel super strongly about this particular thing.
Mhm.
Okay. You know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Like, all right, that can fly today.
Yeah.
We'll figure that
Yeah.
out. All
So
right,
we
and then the
have
third one,
cooperative, empathetic, and forceful. Tell us a little
yes.
bit about forceful.
Yes, so forceful is about us imposing our plans
Hmm.
through some kind of physical force. And so, Barb even reminded us that it's not always, I mean, we might think of like spanking, or hitting or something like that, but even like if you don't get in the car, I will
Hmm.
put you in the car.
Right. Right.
And
It's not harsh punishment. That's not what we're talking about when it
yes,
comes to forceful. We're talking
correct.
about, physically having to carry the child out of the street so that they don't get hurt.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And so with forceful, but the thing is, like, kids are typically more likely to resist a forceful
Yes.
strategy. And
Yes.
so, and it's just like, obviously, of course they do. But I'm even thinking, like, we often do okay, it's time for bed. Are you going to walk upstairs?
Mhm.
Or are you going to choose for me to carry you if you choose not to walk? Right? If
Yes.
you don't choose, I will choose and I will choose this. And
Yes.
sometimes I will choose this is me physically doing this thing either for you or with you.
Yes.
Um, but it is like just knowing that, okay, if that's the strategy that we're using, our kids are more
Yes.
likely to resist it than if we can find a way to do a cooperative strategy or an empathetic strategy.
Exactly. And I even think of with your kids, and sometimes the whole picking up the toys. So
Yes.
it doesn't even have to be picking up the child. It can be, well, you can pick up the toys and put them in the basket, or I can pick up the toys and put them in the basket. And if I pick up the toys and put them in the basket is going on the top shelf of the closet.
Mhm.
That's a forceful strategy. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to take care of it. And this is where I'm going to put it.
Yep. Yep. And that it's physically this is my plan. The plan is
Yes.
you're going to clean up,
Yes.
right? Sometimes we can cooperate and be like, "Oh, you don't want to clean up right now." Or
Right.
sometimes it's empathy of like, "Okay, you know what? You're right. You're very involved in that. Let's
Yes.
wait."
Let's wait.
And then sometimes it is, if you don't clean it up, I will. And
Mhm.
yeah. And so you're right that there we have a variety of strategies to tap into.
We do.
And that sometimes forceful strategy is the necessary strategy.
Absolutely.
But knowing that when that happens, we will likely be meeting more resistance.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are our strategies, how we can use that emotion, recognize it, what influences it, the process that our brain goes through
Yes.
without us realizing. And then looking at, all right, so how do I use that in how to align parent-child goals? Because
Let's
we're
get
shaping
those.
behavior. Yes. So
All right,
it's
so we might as well bring in Mackenzie, right? So
yes.
this is the part of our episode where we bring in our producer, Kenzie DeYoung, and we let her know that we would like to take a moment to stop, breathe, and speak with intention. And that is our flagship strategy, stop, breathe, talk. And so welcome, Kenzie.
Hello.
Hello.
You seem serious.
So, I've really just decided that I'm just not gonna have emotion.
Oh.
I would just rather not have emotion because it seems like there's a lot here. So, like,
Yeah. I was so nervous.
It's I'll say it, we're making it hard for her not to laugh.
so what do you I'm just gonna not have emotion. I would rather just do it without emotion. Like, please
Okay.
stop that.
Oh. Oh, okay. So, like, I think there's a piece to being calm, cool, and collected, right?
Yeah.
Because that's easier for me to be calm, cool, and collected, unless there's this importance piece, right? And so, um, I can totally buy into not having emotion. And then I think about all those celebratory times that I might have not had enough emotions. Like when my kid was super proud of something she did, and my natural, default at that certain moment in time was, "Oh, well, that's nice." And I could have had more emotion.
Yeah.
All right.
I could have had more.
Having no emotion is not something that's ever been on my radar, Mackenzie. Like, that's not an experience I think I've had. I've always had a feeling.
I got a feeling.
So I guess, so I will go that sometimes it's like, if you're so defeated,
Mhm.
angry, overwhelmed, over it, even like with a particular behavior, that sometimes it's just like, fine, I don't care.
Mhm.
Like, and so that, like, that's a reality that where we sometimes are just like, just get away from me.
Mhm.
Or like, but yeah, I don't care. Fine, do whatever you want. And so
Mhm.
that is also a form. I mean, we are still having emotion, but
Mhm.
that is a form of us kind of almost numbing ourselves because
Mhm.
emotions are hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. It would be easier to not care than it is to deal with how I feel and how to regulate it. And
Yes. Does that fall into the love withdrawal category that we talked about in episode
kind
1?
of,
Yeah.
of like, fine, I
Yeah.
don't care.
No
I'm not going to keep
emotion,
you
love
safe.
withdrawal. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't ask a specific question, really,
Ooh.
Mackenzie, but I also feel like you got us to.
The specific
Totally got
was,
us.
so what if I just say I don't
Yeah.
wanna have emotion?
Yeah.
Oh, I also dressed the part today. I have my
You
dark
did.
yeah, little emo today, so
I would say Kenzie's wearing like a dark jacket and a dark green shirt and a dark
Yeah.
lip and dark earrings. So yeah, she's
Yes.
dressed. She's dressed
Yes.
for it.
sorry, got a serious face, but
Yeah,
yes,
serious.
Yes.
I'll take that into consideration as we move
Okay.
forward. Thank you.
Okay. And emotionless Kenzie is not what I was expecting. And that
No,
is not typical operating procedure. How about that?
that was an off the cuff question. That
That
wasn't caught
was.
off guard experience.
I
But
was waiting for her to tell us that we hadn't started recording and that we were gonna have to start all over. That's really what was
yes, like
happening in my brain. Like I'm gonna have to go back and look at my
we have to do
facial
this again.
expressions. We have to start over.
Oh, funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but she does make like kind of bring a salient point of like,
Mhm.
we have emotions and it's a thing. And like, yeah, you could choose to try to be numb to it or,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's going to be, that would be challenging too. So
Yes.
there's a different process of emotions that I think understanding those different parts helps us better understand that behavior reaction cycle we talk about of like
It does.
the activating, engaging, regulating. And, in the future, in a future season, I know we're going to have it to be talking all about regulating.
All
Look forward to
about.
that.
Yes, we are.
But yeah, but so
Okay.
we learned that internal process. And
Yep.
now we look at, okay, we can align goals, we can
Mhm.
regulate, we understand what influences it. So we're working on emotion and how we can use it to harness it, I should say. We're going to
Harness.
harness it.
We're gonna
Thwart,
we're not
harness.
going to thwart it. We're going
Yeah.
to harness it. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So what's next? What's next week is that we're going to talk about recognizing the parent-child relationship. And we're going to look at how the
Mm,
climate of our relationship with our kids really plays a role into how we guide and shape them and what tools and techniques we use. So that's
yes.
next week. Come
Look
back.
forward to it.
Right? Come back. So thanks for joining us today on the Science of Parenting podcast. And in case you haven't heard, if you have a specific parenting question, you can always email our team at parenting@iastate.edu. And don't be afraid to reach out.
Yes, we love your questions. Please do come along with us as we tackle the ups and downs, the ins and outs, and the research and reality all around the science of parenting.
The Science of Parenting is hosted by Lori Kothals and Mackenzie Johnson, produced by Mackenzie DeYoung, with research and writing by Barbara Dunn Swanson. Send in questions and comments to parenting@iastate.edu and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or accommodation inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.